Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, August 12th, 2024. Yeah, August, the 8th month. I know I made a mistake recently. I posted on Patreon. I do a shop update on there weekly, or I try to do it weekly, and I inadvertently made it 9 instead of 8. So when I put the date, I put September 12th, 2024, and thankfully somebody corrected me. I think the problem with that, or the reason for that, is our youngest son. His birthday is 8, 8, 9, right? It's August, yeah, August 9th. And sometimes I get those kind of mixed up. So I looked at the dates and I was like, what is it? Is it 8 or 9? And I put the 9. And I was wrong. So I think Brandon pointed that out to me. So if you saw the recent update on the Patreon, then that's a mistake I made. So anyway, no big deal. I think everybody got the idea of what I was working on. And in that video, I talked about the 68 Mustang known as Jade and where I was at in that finishing up some of the work that's on that car. And, you know, it's frustrating whenever you have a plan and you think, okay, this is all I need to do. This is all I have to do. You know, one of those situations where somebody says, here's a project for you. All you have to do is finish putting it together, right? This car's all done. It's all painted. You just need to finish building it. So I did work on the differential, got it up in place and all that sort of thing, sealed it up, repaired some things that needed repaired. And I'm going through the process of putting pieces back on, and I was like, well, I don't have brake parts. They weren't in the brake drum when I took it off the first time. So I had to get some brake parts. I worked on trying to put the sway bar under the car. Well, the bushings wouldn't fit, so I had to get more bushings. And then today I did manage to get all the brakes on the back, and I go to put one of the wheels on, and I realize that there's a bad stud on the axle. Can't use it. Okay, take the stud out, go to the parts store, pick up a stud, bring it back, put that in, get that in place. And then I come to find out or realize that I don't have enough lug nuts. Because the situation was they're half 20 threads on the standard car. But when I had the other differential underneath there, the other rear axle that's now under the red car, it had the spacers on it with a different size lug, a smaller lug, which I had to buy lug nuts for that at one point. And so somehow I've managed to misplace probably 10 lug nuts. So what did I do? Well, I ordered another set of lug nuts. So it's just been this continual snowball of, I can't get that done, I need this, I can't get that done, I need that, but I'm really close. So at this point, I have to finish putting on the sway bar, I have all the materials to take care of that, and finish putting oil in it, and then it's basically I need to bleed the back brakes out, and I may have to get Roger for the assist on that one, because I can't do that one myself. But it's coming along, and that's a good time to bring this up. I'm curious, just curious, if you're watching and you have watched the videos on Jade, give me an idea of what you think that car is worth, knowing what's been done to it. Like everything's painted, there's no rust in the car, rebuilt 302, rebuilt C4 transmission, all new front and rear suspension, new power steering, new power brakes, Dakota digital gauges, and vintage air in the car. Obviously new headliner, new carpet, new dash pad, everything. Everything's been redone on the car. So give me an idea of what you think Jade may be worth. And so looking forward to those responses. So anyway, here's the live stream tonight. I hope you all are interested or have some subject matter you want to bring up and talk about, and that would be great. If you have some questions, if you're new here, I encourage you to participate. If you do, you get a bell as part of the process. So hope everything has gone well for everybody this past week. I know I posted the video of the cruise that we took, and that took a lot of effort. You know, whenever you're doing normal car stuff and you're filming with this camera or that camera, and then you start mixing up formats, and then you want to give information about where you were and what you did, and it took me like 4 days. Now, not 8 hours a day, but 4 days of time to make that video happen. And man, you just don't realize how challenging it is sometimes when you're trying to take one style of video, mix it with another style of video, mix it with music, mix it with pictures, details, and all that sort of thing. But it turned out, I think it turned out pretty good. And there was stuff I did not put in there because it would have been a lot longer. But I tried to cover the stuff that we had done, and it was a good time. Very happy that I took that cruise. We took that cruise. So, again, everybody is welcome to participate, and I look forward to any sort of questions or comments or whatever we can come up with tonight. Okay, take a breath, and let's see who's here and get the night started. So first in is Dave Tyson, first Dave sighting. Glad to hear Dave. Hope all is well. Richard Vogel. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, Richard. Glad you're here. Terry Keithley. It's usually Terry and Betty checking in. Hi, Barry and everyone. Please hit the thumbs up and like button for Barry. Thank you, Terry, Betty, and the cats. Yes. You have to have the cats in there. Travis Holtman. Good evening, all. Happy Monday. I hope your weekend was amazing. Please hug your family every day. Oh, you don't know how real that is right now. For me, in particular, you don't know how real that is. And let's not go there. Yeah. Okay, move on. Rusty's Restoration, hello, Barry and all. I enjoyed your vacation video. Well, thank you, Rusty. I enjoyed taking the vacation. Jerry checking in from Middle Tennessee at the Money Pit. Glad to hear, Jerry. Hope all is well with you. Roger is checking in. Hindsight 6'7". Greetings from next door. Glad to hear, Raj. And Robert is checking in. Evening all. 105 degrees the next 10 days at least here in Texas. Yes. And it's too horrible in the shop. It's not horrible in the shop as long as you aren't doing much. Well, yeah. Yeah. This morning I got up and walked outside, and it was 70 degrees, and I was like, ooh, this feels kind of good. And then, of course, it went up from there. I don't know what it's at right now, but I'm sure it's hot. So, but I am looking forward to the transition. Now, I know that the goal, of course, is to get back on the Cobra Jet. I wanted to get Jade ready to go. I do have people interested in buying that car, so I want to make sure it's ready to go and it can go somewhere. So obviously I want to have it ready, and then once I get it finished, I'm going to roll it out, put the red car back up on the lift, and go to town on getting everything done on the Cobra Jet so that I can at least get it in epoxy as soon as possible, and then start building out from there. So, Rick Gain, your son has the same birthday as me. Yeah, I saw that, Rick. So, happy birthday to you. Give you a bell. Yeah, sorry about that. Steve Reed, hello, Barry and everyone. Hope everybody is doing good. Thank you, Steve, from Paducah, Kentucky. I have to say that. James, my Mustang Garage. Good evening, everyone. Glad to be here. Glad you're here, James. And I will be meeting up with James in a week. Yeah, next week. Be heading to James's place. Well, actually to a campground, and then to his place to help him with his 67 Mustang convertible. Hopefully we can get some stuff done. It puts a price, I guess, of Jade of $17,500. Well, I would buy those all day long at $17,500 if I could get them. Yeah. I wouldn't sell it for that at all. Never. When you look at these cars, and I know you can't get back. I'm not counting labor and all that stuff. I know you can't say, hey, it's going to be X, but a paint job is 10 grand anymore, just for the paint job. So, but no, I would not even. I'd buy another one for 17.5 if it popped up and it was in the same condition. Yeah, I'd buy that car. Rick, my 65 was done up quite similar to Jade. It was appraised at 50,000. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Jerry says lug nuts is the least of your efforts, just a fruition. Yes, you're right. Terry Keithley, 35 to 40. I'm probably agreeing with you on that. Somewhere in that range is what I believe is probably what it's worth. Ed Cucciarella, Iron Man is back. Yes. Glad you're here, Ed. Clark Clifford. Hello, all. Hey, Clark. Haven't heard you said your name in a while. Glad you're here. Dave Tyson says 25 plus. Yes. Yeah, I would not even consider selling it for less than 25,000. That much I can tell you. Not even consider it. Jerry says I think JHB worth about 38,000, and that's probably in the range that I'm thinking as well. Now, if I can put a price on it and I ask more than that, and somebody wants it and they buy it, fantastic. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the price of that. Thank you, Jerry. Bob Shoemaker, evening all from a muggy Oklahoma. Yeah, glad you're here, Bob. Sorry about the weather. Her Scrambler. Any idea how to remove adhesive transfer off of decals without wrecking them? Tried to use strips that were very old, and when I pulled the liner off, much of the glue stayed on top of the vinyl. Okay, so I guess I'm kind of confused, but I'm glad you're here, Hurst. So how to remove adhesive transfer off of decals without wrecking the decal itself? Tried to use strips that were very old, and when pulled the liner off, much of the glue stayed on top of the vinyl. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. Sorry. The bowler hat guy, good evening all. Really liked the vacation video. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I believe it's David, right? I think that's correct. Yes, it was a lot of fun to take that cruise and experience, different parts of the world, even if it was short-lived. We did enjoy it. So maybe we'll do another one at some point in the future. I don't know. Clark says, what shade of blue is that car behind you, Barry? Oh, that is cardinal blue. That's what that is. It's cardinal blue is what they call that one. Good question. Alex, keep up the good work. Always great content. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you being here. Rusty's Restoration says 25 to 30. Yeah. That's reasonable. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Always hope for more. Tim Miller, anyone know the jet sizes of 311 small block or SBF with Holley 4150 carb? Okay, so that's a very specific question that I'm not going to be able to answer. Anyone know the jet sizes for 311? Is that the correct number? Is that like a 302? Is that what we're saying? It's board over. I'm guessing. Small block forward 311. So slightly built 302 maybe. And what size jets you should be running? Is that the question? I don't have an answer for that, but good question. Hopefully somebody has an answer. Thank you, Tim. Rick Gain says, take Jade to Barrett Jackson. That's, yeah, I don't know how all that works as far as, the commissions and all that sort of thing. It might bring a really good number, but I don't know what, I haven't looked into that at all to know what my cost would be in that end. What I had to pay, I don't know. But that's not a bad idea. But I will say this, I have about 3 people interested in the car right now. So one is very interested, and the other two are interested as well. So we'll see once I get everything done how it goes. Chris Greenaway, hi Chris. He's here from the Great White North. Bowler Hat Guy says, yes, that's correct. David, yep. Thank you for confirming that. Evan's Messy Garage. Hey, Barry and everyone. Been online, but driving. I'd put Jade at 25K plus, more with the right buyer. Yeah. Yeah. I would say I probably will not. I wouldn't sell it for less than, I won't sell it for 25. That much I can tell you. I think there's too much interest in it for me to even consider that at this point. But you're right. 25 plus is more correct in my opinion. Jerry says 3M makes a releaser remover that worked for me. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's talking about removing it from the car or from the vinyl itself. I was a little confused by that, but they do make those products. But I'm not sure what exactly he was asking. Michael Pagliarini, evening all. Happy VJ Day. Well, glad you're here, Michael. Hope all is well. Richard, will you offer financing on Jade? Sure. Sure, I will. We won't go into terms on that, though. Her Scrambler saying from the vinyl itself. That's what I thought. So I don't know how to do that with the vinyl itself. So, sorry. Don't have a good answer. Terry Keithley, I got the rear fenders of my buddy's 40 Ford coupe strips. I look like I came out of the mine. Yeah. It's a mess. It is a mess. Chris says he's in Canada stand. Yeah. It's really odd the things that are happening in North America. Yeah. Let's not go there. Dave Conville. Good evening. Good evening, Dave. Glad you're here. Rick Dane. If 3 people want Jade, that means you have to build 2 more just like it. Well, that's kind of the point of selling Jade, right? Is to help me finance my Mach 1 build and potentially another version of Jade. I've got the 68 coupe outside, the Poco, as I call it, the blue one, and that one may become the second Jade sort of thing. I don't know yet, but that's down the road. That's down the road. I have other things lined up to work on, so including this car right behind me. James says, Barry, how do you find time when life gets in the way and sidetracks you? How do you keep going with projects? That's a great question. That is a great question. I don't know there's an easy answer to that. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, man, probably all of you know, I grew up doing what I'm doing every day. Like in a junkyard, working on cars, taking stuff apart, putting it together, solving this problem, fixing that problem. And so that it's kind of in me to do these sort of things. And I can't escape it. Is kind of how I look at it. Like, I don't want to sit around and, like, if I actually retire, I can't see myself sitting around on front porch drinking a coffee and just chilling out. I can't do that. But I think there's just a part of it is the fact that I grew up with these cars, and that I saw so many cars get destroyed, rusted out, crushed, taken apart, scrapped, whatever. And I don't know, I feel like, I can't say it's an obligation, but I feel a desire to try to save these cars because I couldn't do it when I was younger. And, if I don't, who will, kind of thing. I also, I just have to stay busy. When I was working at Delta and as a mechanic, I would, be able to solve problems there. But while I was at Delta for 7 years, I was also running or a partner in a body shop. And so I was not only working at Delta, I was working almost full time at the body shop. And then I would come home and work on projects here. Just because I don't know, it's just kind of a sickness that I have. So it's hard for me to stop. You can ask Roger. I mean, he could probably tell you many times. He can hear me out here in the garage. I'm still before I had like air conditioning and stuff. I'd have this front door open 9-10 o'clock at night. I'd still be out here hustling on stuff. When I was a teenager, of course, my brother was 6 years older than me, but I was always kind of competitive, I think, in a way with him, trying to do things. And so whenever I was a teenager, like 14, 15 years old, on the weekends, I wouldn't go off partying with friends. I wouldn't go, other places. I would be out in the garage working on cars till 3 or 4 in the morning. My mom would have to get me to come back in the house and go to bed, basically. I don't know. It's a sickness. It is a sickness. So great question. I don't know if I can answer it any other way. There are things that will sidetrack you, but I don't know. I feel like I have to be out here doing something. Okay, so we answered that, or tried to answer that with her scrambler to get the adhesive off of the vinyl. Don't have an easy answer for that. Dan Sargent, greetings from Vermont. Greetings, Dan. Glad you're here. Real Nautical Fishing. Hey, Barry, hope all is well, buddy. A couple questions for you. First one, have you had any luck ordering from the company Stangaholics? I have not ordered from Stangaholics. I don't think I have. I think I've seen their website, but I don't recall actually ordering anything from them. I was looking at something like a wiring harness. I think they had a great price on American Auto Wire wiring harnesses, if I remember correctly. But I have not ordered directly from them, so I don't have a good answer for you. And let's see if anybody else has. Stangaholics, anyone. So glad you're here. Steve's Money Pit. I'm here. You can continue. All right. Thank you, Steve. Terry says, Betty wants to know, how much is your wife's cut from Jade? Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on how much she has contributed to the project. I guess that's how it works, right? That's like I told when my sons were, they want to drive my cars, whatever. And several times I told them, how much work did you do to it before you could, earn the right to drive it? And I would let them drive them, but they never drove the 55 Chevy. They did drive the dune buggy. And just this past, before I brought Jade in here, I let them both drive Jade up and down the street so they could, get a taste of it. But it definitely needs to be looked at that way. For me, it's like, hey, did you help? But yeah, her cut is going to be the house and the RV and the vacation we just took. That's her cut. Good question. PR 4470, hi all from Texas. Hello, PR. When I look at that, I think my mind goes PR, what was it, 1435? If you know, I think it was PR. I think it was PR, 1435. If you know what that is, let me know. If you know what 1435 is. Tim Miller, buy my 67 coupe it's restored, 4-speed, 311, Brittany blue, blacktop inside, 355, just 355 rear, just got her done. Okay. Well, apparently the going rate is 17.5. Yeah, I couldn't. I probably wouldn't buy another. Honestly, buy a car that was already done. I probably wouldn't. But uh, I like doing the work. It just makes me feel better as a person doing that kind of work. Um, but you could send me an email if you want to send me an email on it, Tim. Give me some detail and pictures and what you want for it. I might be able to help you sell it. So if you have not seen, where's it at? In my banner here, I have Joe Daddy's Garage at gmail.com. So send me pictures and some details, and maybe I can help you sell it. Maybe. David Jimenez, right? Jimenez? Is that how you say it? Barry, you sound like me. Well, thank you. My brother was the same way. He just constantly working on something. Just, I don't know. It's a sickness. Richard, I need to come down with Barry's sickness. Yeah. There are people who've tried to come down with that sickness, but it's inherent because I was born into it. It's kind of like the default answer. When I went to school, and we would come home from school, we didn't do homework. We would go in the house, change our clothes into work clothes, go back out, start pulling parts. That's what we did. Then we'd have supper, and then do your schoolwork and take a bath and watch a little TV maybe, and then go to bed. That's just how we always did it. So I'm still doing the same thing, I guess. Roger can definitely confirm. I'm generally shocked to walk over to a shop and he's not in there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it's, I probably would sleep out here if I could. I'd probably sleep better out here than I would in the house. James, I've ordered from Stangaholic. Not too bad. Just don't expect NPD quick delivery. Okay. Thank you, James. Chris Greenaway, how to find motivation. Yeah, I don't know. I was the same way with just about everything, though. I try to do, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if the word is really accurate to say competitive, but I am competitive in just about everything I end up doing. And to me, it's kind of like, this is sort of like a competition. Maybe it's only against myself, but it's sort of a competition. Like, can I do it? Can I build this? Can I, whatever? So that's just, I don't know. I guess that's one way I can look at it. Rick Ain, when are you going to start building the Mustang that will be your grandson's first car? That's a good question. He is 5, so I have some time. I have to decide which one would be suitable. So yeah, there's. I have time for that one, I think. Gary McDowell, would you be interested in doing a complete floor on another 66 convertible? That's a good question. Is it as bad as the one that I worked on? Is probably the first question. Like how rusted out is the thing? I would have to see pictures. I may be interested. I don't know. It's just really, it would really have to be suitable for me to work on that, something like that. So, again, if you want to send some pictures, there's, I'll show the banner again, Joe Daddy's Garage at gmail.com. And maybe we can go from there. But it's not out of the question. Put it that way. It's not like taking the Brooklyn Pony and salvaging the door hinges. Dawn, hello all. Hello from Overcast PDX. Finally a cool day, high 70s for working. Cool day for working. Yeah. Well, glad you're here, Dawn. And as I said in the latest video, I think it was your latest video, when you're out driving around Betsy, right? I want to make sure I got it right. And you got the head camera on. I do enjoy seeing the scenery, all that sort of thing. I've thought about making some videos like that, but I just haven't gotten to that point. Most of the time, if I make a video like that, I'm just holding the camera in front of me and driving down the road. I haven't really put it on the side of my head. Not a bad idea though. Robert, only 1435 I can think of is fuel tank sealer, aka Pro Seal. Yeah, 1435 was used on aircraft, and it was a messy product, but it was a 2-part mix, and it was a sealer you can use on fuel tanks and stuff like that. So yeah, and I think it was PR. I want to say PR. If I remember correctly, let me look quick. I actually had an old kit. Oh, look. It's PR, yeah. PR-1435 base compound right here. Now this is, I'm sure, no good anymore. This one out of date. This is something that would have been used in the airline industry. Manufacturing date is 12 of 91. 91. That's when I hired in at Delta. And I still have one of these cans. 33 years later, I have one of these mixed cans. So you take this compound or this whatever and mix it into this, stir it up. Later on they went to these kits, 1435, and it was plunger that you would take the I don't know if you took the cap off. You had to take something apart, and there was a rod that you push down inside, and it would push the material down inside of there, and then you would twist this and stir it up and mix it up, and then I think then you took the red cap off and you could use it. So yeah, this these are way out of date. This was from February 1992. Yeah, the things you find in a old, because those were in my old toolbox when I worked out in the hangar at Delta, and when I ended up moving or leaving that area and brought my toolbox home, that was in the bottom of my toolbox, and they've just been riding around with me ever since. Michael says PPG sealant. Yep. I guess it's PPG. I didn't even look. Probably PPG. PR is for Pete Rodriguez. Rodriguez. Glad to hear, Pete. Every time when I see your name and nothing, and not making fun of your name at all, there was WKRP in Cincinnati. You remember watching that show? Anybody? And they had Les Nessman, and they had Johnny Fever, and the characters on there. They had the sports guy, and there was a golfer named Chichi Rodriguez, if I remember correctly, Chichi, and he didn't know how to say it, so he was doing a broadcast, and he was saying it's Chai Rodriguez. And you remember those things because you're young, and it's just kind of it just sticks with you. It's kind of like whenever what was it? For the love of God, I thought turkeys could fly or whatever. Okay, let's get back off of this. Glad to hear, Pete. James, I was joking about 17.5, trying to get the ball rolling on price. 34.5 accounting for all the mods. Okay, well that's more reasonable. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Dawn says I'm tackling a happy wife, happy life project. Talk about motivation. Yeah, yeah, I understand that. Tim Miller, thanks. You're welcome. Dave Tyson, my wife has a '66 Mustang. That is how I found you. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's awesome. Chris, need to get motivation and cash. Yeah, those two are hardest to come up with. Definitely needs a lot of both. Richard, my Mustang parts guy, gave me a great advice years ago. He said, "Finish your car before you work on your house." Well, 25 years later, the house isn't finished and the car is in pieces. Yeah, I get it. James, county city electrical inspector coming out tomorrow. I better pass. I need electrical up by the 20th. It will, but got to love government red tape. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Tim Miller, the grandson bring the shop. Oh, yeah. Eventually I would like to have him over here. We'll see how it goes if he gets interested in the, in working on cars and stuff. Evan, yeah, I'm not working in the garage. I'm working on the house or working on the computer. My wife makes fun of me because I relax after work by doing different work. Yeah. Well, I mean, this to me is kind of like a therapy session out here working on cars. It really feels that way. I get something solved. I fix something. I feel good about it. I move on, work on the next thing, get it fixed, move on. And it's just kind of this continual process of accomplishing things. Rick Stevenson, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I'm a little W. Okay, Steve. Okay, Rick, sorry. Good evening. Sorry that I'm a little W. That's okay. Real nautical fishing. And another question I have is, how hard is it to do the inner rockers once the full floor and torque boxes are out? Just watch the throwback to the full floor. We'd like to know what you would do different. How hard is it to do the inner rockers once the full floor and torque boxes are out? Okay. They shouldn't be hard. Well, I take that back. Hold on a second. The difficulty you run into with the inner rockers is the overlap of the rear torque box. So if you have the front ones out, there's really nothing in the way after that. But the rear torque box, spring perch mount, all that stuff, overlaps all that, goes up against it. So it's sandwiched between the outer rocker and the rear torque box. So that becomes a challenge. Now, how do you get around that? You may not. Other than taking, if you really needed to change the whole inner rocker, you have the floor out. If you have the rear torque box out, then it's no big deal. If you're doing the whole dynacorn floor pan. But if you're just doing like the sheet metal, you either have to section that piece if it's solid enough, or you may have to take the outer rocker off to expose the inner rocker. And once you do that, now you've created stress points. But if you add bracing in so nothing can move, then you could probably take it out and replace it, both pieces, the inner and the outer. Now, as far as the throwback to the full floor, the only thing I would have done differently on that, I would have put the firewall in first. I didn't realize that I could not put the firewall in on that car, on the light blue Mustang, if that's what you're asking. I didn't realize I could not have the floor in place, and I couldn't rotate the firewall underneath it. Like the firewall is supposed to go under the floor pan, just for water. That's all it is, just water trap. But when I did it, I had to put it on top of the floor pan. Now I still welded it, seam sealed it. It's tight. It's not going anywhere. But that's the only conflict that I had was I should have put the firewall in first. So like when I did the Cobra Jet, and I started with the floor pan, I worked everything forward, putting in the firewall and the upper and lower cowl before I put the frame rails in. Now on that light blue car, I did not take the frame rails out, so they were still in the floor supports, or well, they were still there. The floor supports came in with the floor pan, so that was the only challenge. I could not rotate the firewall into that. So hopefully that gives you some insight into doing it. But it's going to be a challenge to do an inner rocker without taking something out of the way, unless you section the thing. Real Nautical says, thank you, my Mustang Garage. Steve's Money Pit, I'm like you. I feel useless if I don't do anything for a day. Delta wants that PR15, 1435 back. Yeah. I would be surprised if it's even a viable 30-some years later. Rick, Ford built these things in a matter of hours, and now we spend years and years restoring them. This is true. This is true. And they were built by hand. I mean, think about that. It's not like today's cars where pieces stack up on a jig and robot welders come in and put it all together, and all they ever do, the final workers just assemble interior parts and bolt together things. They don't do any of the fabrication of the bodies at this point. Okay, so Rick says late. Yeah. I'm glad you're here, Rick. James, interrockers are flat on coupe and fastback. Convertibles are considerably harder. Yes, that is true. Yes, if you're doing the third, we'll say that on a coupe and fastback, the interrocker is just a flat plane, but on a convertible, yes, you have the third rocker panel. Yep. And convertibles have lower seat pans welded to inner rocker to floor supports. Yep. Yeah, the convertible floor pan is a lot more structurally solid. And that's, in fact, what we're talking about doing with this car. If we're going to go into the autocross phase of this car, then more than likely we're going to put in a convertible floor pan, so it has the rigidity of the rocker panels, the extra inner rockers, and that floor support underneath. It's going to help make the car even more solid. Add in some frame connectors, and you can't get much stiffer than that. Michael, I didn't think making drip rails would be such a PETA. A pillar and a window track are totally rebuilt and ready for primer. Yeah. Yeah, those drip rails, they're not fun. They're not fun. And they're different from a coupe to a fastback. Ask me how I know. Tall Red Easel. Finally, Iron Man returns. All right. Thank you, Tall Red Easel. There we go. Appreciate that. Evan, just do what the previous owner of my 67 did. Just overlap the metal and blob weld everywhere until you can't tell the difference. Yeah. Yeah. I know. That's... don't get me started. Rick, hey, you didn't drink your coffee when Rick Stevenson checked in. Yeah, he was late. He was late. I had already taken my initial sip of coffee. So he ended up missing out on that. Thank you, Rick. David, I'm working on a new electric Mustang SUV. A tree fell on it. What a POS. Yeah. Yeah, they should have just let it die. If a tree fell on it, that's telling you something right there. Mother Nature said no. Scrap it. James, my uncle worked on Dearborn Assembly Line in 1968. Wages were $8 an hour, so they could have tons of people assembling by hand. Remember, a '68 Mustang new was $3,500. Yeah, That's true. And you know, it's remarkable, the assembly line process and how these cars, any cars, were put together. But I really do enjoy looking at the old videos of the Model T and the Model A's coming together. I have I've rebuilt the Model A. It was my grandfather's car, and it's not that complicated. But to see those guys like hand building the wheels on the T, wood spoke wheels, and they're just knocking a thing together, turning it, sending it on its way. Another guy's truing it up, and all these things, pulling the fenders around and just slapping them together. Now they didn't have the fit and finish necessarily that we look for today, back then. Like the Model A very unique thing about the Model A is, well, let's say 28 and 29 were one design, and then 30 and 31 were a different design, almost identical. So if you're ever looking at one of those and you're wondering, hey, what year is this? Well, the 28 and 29, the firewall and the hood meets the firewall like bluntly, like it's like that. So the firewall, here's my hand, this firewall, this is the hood, and and the hood opens, but it's a blunt angle sticking out. So they revised that 30 and 31. The hood and the firewall are aligned so that they transition a little more streamlined. But what you don't realize is the door never sat flush in the car. I didn't realize this till I started rebuilding that car. The door overlapped the frame, like just overlaps it. And so when I did that car, I went and got some weather stripping, like from Lowe's, that black foamy weather stripping, and I put it on the inside of the door. Otherwise, when you shut the door, it would hit the paint. And so I put that in there, and when it shuts, it sounds really solid because it is. But it's just some of those odd things that you don't look at, you don't realize. And of course, as time went on, and they just, streamlined the cars, and a lot of the hands-on stuff was still there, but it wasn't quite the same as way back when. So I love watching those old films though, where they show these things coming together. They show some films where it's like the Model T is showing it from being stamped out to being assembled, and I forget what the timeline is, but it's like almost like it's the same day or less than a day that it went from a stamping to assembly, and it was basically all done by hand. It's just really cool to see that stuff. Chris, fit and finish issues were throughout the classic car era, but people forget that. Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a lot of fit and finish stuff that had to happen. There's a video that I saw, and it wasn't in these States, it was in some other country, where they were building these little, I don't even know what they were. They looked like Fiats or something. Just little, ugly little cars. And these guys are just taking hammers and a board and smacking on them and aligning the door, and open and shut the door a few times, look at it, smack it again, open and shut the door a few times, turn a screw here, turn something there, slam it again. Same way with the hood. Oh, this hood's not right. Taking a mallet and beating on the front of the hood and rolling it in so that it met the grill. These cars were just tin cans that they were just beating into place. But you can call them craftsmen, because they weren't just, it looked good when it was done, but when it came to them, there was all kinds of gaps and weird angles and stuff, and these guys are just grabbing it with their hands and pushing on pieces and getting them to reshape. Just really interesting to see some of that old footage. Real Nautical, how many of you guys believe that it's worth going to a rack and pinion front end instead of leaving it stock for a daily driver? My opinion, for a daily driver, leave it alone. Just my opinion. I put the Borgeson power steering kit on that car on Jade. fantastic. I love it. Drives nice, no issues. Um, for me, if it's just a daily driver like that, then you don't gain anything by doing all that extra effort, in my opinion. I just don't see it. You know, you can actually add the power steering box pretty simply, few hoses, pump, you're done. No, some people are putting in electric steering and stuff like that, which is an option, but I don't see any value in putting a rack and pinion in just a daily driver. Chris says leave it stock for a cruiser and car show, cars and coffee, not going to notice a difference. That's pretty accurate. Yep. Robert, the German Trabant was thrown together and made out of interesting materials. Much of it was not steel. It was from a form of fiberglass type stuff. Yeah. Ed, PR sealant, is that not door plug sealant? Oh, it could be. I would probably put more faith in that sealant holding a door on than the people that worked on those planes. Yeah, it's some tough stuff. I know it'll never come out of your clothes. That much I can tell you. James says Borgenson will modernize it. Yes, it will. And David, daily driver equals stock, performance equals rack and pinion. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. That makes sense. As it is, mine will just. I left it as a Borgenson. Now I have to look. I'm not sure what is set up on the 69 Mach 1 that I have on mine. I'm not sure what the steering setup is on that, but I'll figure it out. Eventually, I may have to add power steering. I don't remember. I have to look at it and see what it has. Robert, my dad used old fuel tank sealer to glue tile on in our place in Dover. Yeah. It's some tough stuff. It really is. People don't realize some of the chemicals that we have that are incredibly strong. Especially in the aircraft industry. That sealant, I know we use it all the time to seal up fuel tanks. And that was something I definitely don't miss that aspect of aircraft maintenance, because we would have to take it was no fun. You crawl through. If you ever look at the bottom of a wing, there's a port openings that are about that big, and they're screwed together. Seals are in the place, but anyway, you take that off, and that gives you access to the various chambers within the aircraft wing, because that's where the fuel is. There's our center tanks in airplanes, but the wings have a bunch of fuel in them too, especially on the older planes, the L1011s, 67s. Anyway, bunch of them. And so you would have to, your job would be to go inside of that tank, and what they would do, because they knew there was a leak, but they could not figure out where the leak was. So if you were tasked with helping to find that leak, you would have to go inside with a dye penetrant material, and they would have to seal you in. They had a special plate. So you went in, and that plate had a hose coming through for air. So you were wearing a respirator that was connected to that plate. You go inside the wing, and where they suspected the leak was, you would work your way to that area, and you would either knock on them saying you're ready, or you would maybe have a walkie-talkie, and they would pressurize the tank. They would put air pressure on the wing, and you would take that penetrant and spray it in various spots, and then when they saw it, they would tap, so you knew where I was spraying it was where it was leaking from. And then it was up to you to clean that area up, maybe undo the sealant and reseal that so that it didn't leak fuel. Let me tell you, it was no fun crawling inside a fuel tank, because the fuel tanks, I mean, there were areas where it was just wide enough. I mean, that like tall enough for your head, and you had to get all the way back in there and spray junk in there. Oh my gosh, it was not not a good job, especially like the old DC-9s or MD-80s, because the wings were low wings, and you could go in from the top, but you had to go in like head first, and then they had to pull you out. You couldn't turn around in there. There was only one person I ever saw that could turn around inside of that fuel tank, and it was a female inspector. We don't know how she did it. She could get in that tank and turn around and come back out. But you had to, if you were like my size, you'd have to wiggle back and then grab your feet and pull you back up out of the fuel tank opening. So that was not fun. That's thing, I don't miss any of that. Okay, Dawn says, as long as the rack and pinion you buy has proper geometry figured in the design, otherwise the car will handle worse. Thank you, Dawn. Good point. Good point. James says, for classic Mustangs, go AOD. AOD. Lower RPM highway speeds help preserve old original engines, plus gas mileage boost. 70 miles per hour, 3,500 RPM with a C4. 70 miles per hour, 2,000 RPM with AOD. Yes. Yeah, AOD transmission. Yes. That's not a bad idea at all. Thank you. Dave Tyson says hard on ears. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anything you do with airplanes seems to be hard on the ears. Roger, I was the skinniest machinist in the shop, so I got fuel tank duty regularly. Definitely not a good time. No. And it's even worse when you're in the tank and you're suited up in some, protective gear. And you would have to go in there and safety wire fuel pumps, make sure everything was right, or replace a fuel pump and then safety wire it back in, and then an inspector would have to follow you in later and check your wiring, which is good. But I know on one occasion, I forget what the plane was, I was in a tank and I'd gotten in there and I did the repair and I started trying to get out and I got hung. I got something, I don't know what it was, whether it was my because at that time I was only wearing a uniform. I didn't have coveralls on. So I got hung up inside the wing and I'm like, oh no. I was panicking. It's one of those times where you ever watch the old videos or maybe seen the old videos where somebody is in a cave, and they're crawling around in a cave, and they talk about, oh yeah, if you go right here and you get stuck, then you're likely going to die, type of thing. That goes through your mind whenever you're trapped inside a wing, and so I had to just calm down, just relax, keep wiggling around until I find what I need to move to get myself loose, and then I would, obviously I got out of there, but it's just never fun, and I don't miss any of that stuff. One thing I do remember, we had a guy, his name, I don't know what his real name was. I know his last name was Jones. They called him Stump Jones. And he was probably 5'8", 5'9", 260 pounds or more. And he would go into those fuel tanks, and he had to pull himself into the tank. Like he would get in, and then he would grab his flesh and pull it through the opening to get into. I'm like, no, I refuse. If I'm that big, I am not getting into a fuel tank because I know I have to come out eventually. So, let's see. Oh, okay, so you have the Dutchman's Wood Shack has checked in. Glad you're here. Terry Keithley sent you a few pics. Okay. So I downloaded those. Let's see what you got, Terry. Oh, okay. That's a 40 coupe. Nice. I like it. Another picture. That looks like the back half of the car. So I'm not sure. The caption says gone. So saying the metal is gone or you made it gone. One of the two. But either way, yeah, that's some work there. And look at that. I like it. So who makes that part? I'm not saying you didn't make it, but I'm just saying that looks like it's something, something was made by like AMD or somebody. I'm assuming. You might have made it. I don't know. Let me know either way. But that's pretty cool. I like it. Nicely done. Let's see, James. Sorry to cut it short. I have tons to do by tomorrow. Have a good week, everyone. Okay. Glad you're here, James. Robert, my dad hated working in the tail of C5s in Dover in the winter. The metal sucks the heat out of it. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. Real. One more. I have a 302 on my 68. I put heads that came from a machine shop. I put on with new gaskets and such, but it barely starts, idles or revs, and will pop out of the carb. Okay. Check your distributor. Check your distributor. You got it in backwards. I'm just saying. Your distributor is probably off. Normally, if you have popping out of the carb, it's something to do with the timing. Barely starts, idles, revs. Yeah, something's going on. Your distributor is not set in right. That's going to be my guess. The head shouldn't make any difference from that aspect, but something's wrong with the distributor. So go through the procedures on that again, and I'm betting that's what the problem is. So good question. The Dutchman did a Mustang show at Mustang Restoration. Seems like when I need to get information from someone, it's a roadblock situation. Like I have to cough up bucks before anyone talks to you. Yeah, I hate that for you. It's the difficulty for me in a lot of these situations. I like to help people. I really do. I like to share information, but the hard part is it's time. So whenever I'm trying to help somebody answer a question or problem, and I again, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying, hey, don't do this to me, but it is time. And it's time that I give up from working on X, Y, or Z. And so whenever you're at a show or something like that, and you're trying to get information, to them, it's time. I mean, it's the reality of it. It's difficult to give up time when you're trying to get things accomplished. Or, I'm just saying this scenario or situation may be different. But many times I may be, believe it or not, I've had people pose questions to me, and I try to help out my patrons especially whenever they have questions and they need help. But I've come out to the garage at 10 o'clock at night and taken measurements and pictures and sent them to people so they could know what they were, whether they were right or wrong with their measurements and whatnot. I mean, I do stuff like that, but I don't say, hey, I'm not going to answer that unless you pay me. But the reality is it's time. It is time. Jerry says, howdy, Barry, howdy, y'all. Checking in from a wonderful day in Louisville. Left Robert home to deal with the heat. Have a great rest of the stream. Well, thank you, Jerry. Glad you checked in anyway. Terry says, any ex-tunnel rats out there? None that I know of, but there might be some out there. That's a tough job. Robert, yep, I know how that is. I am full of lots of technical info on lots of fields, and I'm everyone's tech support, but don't get anything in return for time spent and assistance given. Yeah, and it is difficult. I like this format here. You all are here. You're giving up your time to hang out and do this with me, right? I'm giving up my time to help manage this and try to share information, get people to, cross paths some. But a lot of time, this is different in that aspect. But there are times where I get messages or it's hard to get me on the phone anymore. I'll say that. But phone calls, Facebook stuff, YouTube comments, emails, and I try. But like I said, especially if my patrons, I will try to help them out as much as I can. Robert knew a guy that was a tunnel rat, but he passed away decades ago. Yeah, there's probably not many tunnel rats still out there, Terry. I'm guessing. If you have to ask what a tunnel rat is, you're probably too young. Probably too young at this point. Okay, let's see. Just checking up and see if there's any other emails. Okay, so the plan, as I said before, is I'm going to finish up getting the brakes bled on Jade, finish putting the fresh oil in, oil filter. I did purchase something. Y'all give me an opinion on this. I've heard good things about these products. I have not tried these. Has anybody used this or something similar? So this is Rizlone ZDDP supplement, zinc. I'm probably going to go ahead and put this in the car. I can't say that it really needs it. I'm using conventional oil, but I am going to add some of that to it as well, just kind of as a preventive maintenance or a preventive measure, let's say. Robert says, get Jade ready for me to drive before I go on vacation. Well, it's pretty close. It's pretty close right now. I think really all I need to do is bleed the brakes and get the oil in it and the sway bar. And I'll get most all that done. Well, we'll probably should have all that done tomorrow. And then the only other thing I still need to address is the horn. Make sure the horns work. So I'm going to have to add that relay to get that going. The Dutchman says, I'm back. Okay. Sorry you left. Terry says, parts by EMS in Detroit, USA. Rear was rusted out. No floors, have new floors for it. Test fit. Okay, so EMS in Detroit. That's nice. I've not heard of that company. They must specialize in the older vehicles. But that's good to know that somebody makes those parts, Terry. And if you're not sure what we're talking about, it's this tail section for this 40 coupe. I'm assuming it's a Ford. I can't tell by looking at it. I'm assuming that's a Ford though. It looks like a Ford. But from the back I can't tell. So. Okay. Ed Cucciarella, I just used Valvoline VR1 1030. It has zinc in it. Okay. Good call. The Dutchman says, how do I send you pictures? On the bottom of my screen right now is my email. So, joedaddy'sgarage@gmail.com. So if you want to send me some pictures, that's where they go. I'll leave that up for a couple minutes. and there's no apostrophe S. I had somebody send me. They contacted me about a 65 fastback. I think it was 65, and they said they'd sent me an email, but I never got the email. And I think what they did is they put the apostrophe S in there. But Robert, I'll be there Wednesday then, and we'll do the horn too. Oh, okay. Wednesday. Okay. Let me know what time I need to pick you up at the airport. David, don't take anything less than 45,000 for Jade. Thank you, David. That would be nice. I would really like to have that for that car. I would. Michael, is your engine a roller or hydraulic? It's hydraulic. Hydraulic. Jerry says, wait, what? Yeah, he's going to have you check on loads to see if he can make it out here. Real nautical fishing, I'm not sure if I've heard it yet, but where did the name Joe Daddy's Garage come from? Well, it's a play on words, so to speak. I didn't really have a name picked out because initially this was called Midway Restorations, was the original name that I had for this channel. And that was because we had the body shop, and I was trying to promote the body shop, so I was making videos at the body shop in an effort to get people interested in bringing their cars to our shop. And it didn't work out. And through, how do I put it, some conflict of interest between me and my partner, we parted ways. So I didn't want to keep that name anymore. I thought this doesn't make any sense. And my daughter her name is, well, short name is Jo. Her name is Joelle, but we call her Jo. So she became Jo or JoJo. And I had also heard somebody ask a question one time. Is that your daddy's garage, right? Is that kind of, and you kind of slang that a little bit. Is that yo daddy's garage type of thing? And I thought, you know what? I kind of like that. So I decided to call it Joe Daddy's Garage. My daughter's name is Jo, and I'm her daddy. And so that's how it became Joe Daddy's Garage. So kind of different. But I like it. I think it's worked for quite some time. And then I have Joe Daddy's Workshop too. That's the other channel that I have. So if you haven't seen any of that stuff, I have videos on there as well. But that's all like home maintenance type of things and wrecking go-karts and stuff like that. Robert says she can stay home with the heat. Yeah. Dave Tyson, cam should be broken in by now. Yeah, it is. But it won't hurt. I know this says provides superior wear protection, prevents cam and valve train wear, and it also gives you, like older vehicles and stuff. It can't hurt. That's the way I look at it. It can't hurt to add this to the engine. I just feel better about it if I put that in there. So that's kind of how that works. But I agree with you. It's all broken in. The car runs like a champ. It does. No complaints whatsoever. I'm hoping that when it comes time, because I have the original 351 for the Windsor motor for my Mach 1. And it's all together. And I'm going to talk to I've already talked to my buddy who built the 302 for Jade, that I want him to build me a 351 stroker. So whatever it turns out to be, I don't know. But he's probably going to take on that task and build me a stroker. and I may do like an AOD transmission for that car. I don't want to put in a 4-speed. It'll be an automatic, and I'm not worried about the originality of a C4 or C6 or whatever. I'll have him build me an AOD and put in the stroker, and that's the goal anyway. Is I would like to build a stroker engine for the Mach 1. I'll probably keep the original engine on the stand, leave it together, and not do anything with it. And then I have to consider down the road whether I'm going to do something with, or what I'm going to do with the other cars. Because like the 67 that I have, it has an engine that one of the pistons, long story, but basically got water in it, and the guy tried to break it loose, and he just punched through the top of the piston and ruined the piston. So I think I can get that engine cleaned up and back together, and that'll probably end up back in the 67, assuming that it gets back together all the way. And then the other 68, I don't know what I want to do with that one just yet. And there's no rush on it. And then, of course, I'm picking up the 70 Mach 1, which has nothing. No engine, no transmission, no interior, no glass. It is just a shell. And so that one, I'm not sure where it's going to end up when I get to putting it together. If I end up putting it together, it's hard to say. I get a lot of options. A lot of people want me to build cars or rebuild cars, and so I'll have to even decide whether I want to build the 70 or not. I don't know yet. The clock is ticking, right? Okay. That's really all I have for tonight. I do plan to have a video coming out. I did make some video for putting the rear end in, putting the leaf springs in. I did a time lapse putting in the brake shoes and stuff like that in the back. I will record putting in the sway bar, and that's probably about it. So that video will be coming out, and I still have to make a video for the carcover.com. They have provided me, and I've probably mentioned this already, a car cover for the RV, and I've been putting it off because it's so hot. But I need to make a video for them for the RV car cover or RV cover. So that's another video that I have to make. But that's where we're at. So I think it's been a good night. We had a pretty good viewers going. I think we were up to high 50s at one point. So that's fantastic. But that'll be it for tonight. Next Monday is the 19th. And I'll be back for that. Rick says, unless you're building a speed demon or burnout car, suggest you build a stock engine for the Mach 1. Easier on a wallet at build time and the gas pump. That is true. I will consider that. Thank you, Rick. That's not a bad idea. I will consider that. Because the Windsor's plenty. It really is. It's plenty of motor. But anyway. Real says, I sent you an email, pics of 69 Mach 1. The guy wants $1,500 for it. Wants to know your opinion. Okay. All right. I'll take a look at that. So, I got a couple other here. I'm not going to be opening up those. I'll get back with y'all later on this. I'm going to close up for tonight. Thank y'all for being here once again. I'll be back next Monday, the 19th, again at 7 o'clock. And I hope y'all have a good week and weekend. So, until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.